Howdy, y'all. My name is Andrew Futius. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am a volunteer with the Paid Sick Leave campaign. Today, we're going to be going through the Paid Sick Leave signature collection training, where we're going to be covering some policy details, signature collection rules, ballot formatting, and also some tips and advice. So in terms of covering some of those policy details, over the next 4 slides, I'll be going a little bit more detailed in some of that information. So first of all, this does cover tier levels for business size. So employers with 20 or more employees must provide up to 56 hours of paid sick time per year, and employers with fewer than 20 employees must provide up to 40 hours of paid sick time per year. This is also based on an accrual model where, based on hours worked, and establishes an allowed accrual minimum. And also, this about equates to 1 hour of leave for 30 hours worked. Continuing on with some of those policy details, this also does include full and part-time workers, so it creates access to an important benefit for part-time workers when other benefits are withheld. And it also is really great because this covers caring for a dependent or a parent. So you may take paid sick time to care for a family member who has or needs treatment for an illness, injury, or health condition. And similarly, you may take paid sick time to attend a meeting where a child is receiving care for an illness, injury, or health condition. This also covers physical and mental health, so you may take paid sick time to treat or deal with your own physical or mental health illness, injury, or health condition. Similarly, it covers time for preventative medical care as well. This also protects employees from employer retaliation for using paid sick leave, so you cannot be counted as an absence that could lead to penalties such as docking or adding points against an employee. Lastly, doctor's notes. So this does not require a doctor's note for up to 2 consecutive days of leave. However, after more than 3 consecutive days, an employer may ask for a doctor's note or a signed statement from the employee stating that they didn't go to the doctor. Lastly, this does include tipped workers, so the rate of pay will be equivalent to the number of hours they would have worked at the state minimum wage. Now, jumping into how to actually collect these signatures. So first of all, who can collect signatures? Circulators must be 18 or over, and circulators do not have to be Nebraska residents or registered to vote in Nebraska. As for who can sign petitions, each signer has to be registered to vote in Nebraska by the time that petitions are turned in July of 2024. So this is important because sometimes you may encounter folks that maybe they're 17 or maybe they just haven't registered to vote yet. If you talk to them and say, hey, as long as you are 18 or as long as you are registered to vote by July of 2024, you are able to sign this, just encourage them and make sure that they try and follow through with that, so that way that their signature can be counted. As for signature collection rules, so you must use blue or black ink pens on the petitions themselves. You must start a new petition sheet for every different county that signers are registered to vote in. So these petition sheets are blank, and if you have someone who is registered to vote in Lancaster County, you'll fill in Lancaster on that sheet, and then maybe if you have someone who is registered to vote in Douglas County, you'll get another sheet for them. If you have someone who's registered in Sarpy County, you'll get another sheet, and so on and so forth. You also must read the object statement at the top of the petition for every single signer. So sometimes you'll encounter folks that say, you don't need to read that out loud, or I just heard you read it to the person in front of me. Just say, I'm required by the Secretary of State's office to read this object statement. So it'll just take, a few seconds, and you can sign while I'm reading. Also, make sure you don't sign your own petition sheet. If you do want to sign, make sure you sign someone else's, and do not offer anything to someone in exchange for their signature. Continuing on with these rules, don't let someone else circulate your petition sheet or leave your petition somewhere for folks to sign without you present. So maybe if you're at an event and you're tabling and you have to maybe go use the restroom or go somewhere, make sure you bring your petition sheet with you or place it in a safe and secure space. Do not allow signers to use ditto marks, these little lines that you see right there. I'll show you what this looks like coming up soon, but just really pay close attention to folks as they sign, so that way they're not making any mistakes. And if they do make one, you can correct it quickly. Lastly, every petition sheet must be notarized, and the great thing about this campaign is they do provide free notaries, so you don't have to go out and get one and pay for one on your own, but they will get you in touch with someone who can notarize your petition for free. As for what this looks like for filling out the petition, so before folks sign, again, we have this object of this petition is to right here, and this is that statement that I was talking about. So you're going to want to read this bold statement at the top to each and every person that signs. When I was mentioning where you're going to be wanting to write in the county, so that will be right here. Obviously, it won't be highlighted, and this will be a blank space, but you'll write in Lancaster, or you'll write in Douglas, or Sarpy, or so on and so forth. As for how to fill out the petition in front of the notary, so this is what the bottom of the petition will look like. Obviously, there's this green area of where you're going to want to fill that out, but the red area you do not want to touch until you are in front of the notary. Specifically, the circular right here, you're never going to want to write right here. So you're going to fill out, again, the county, your name, where how many signatures are on the sheet. So there are up to 20 signatures that can be on each sheet. So just include the number. That could be 5 or 10 or 20. Just write that right there. You can fill in your address, city, state, and zip code ahead of time, but that circular signature, your signature, you're going to want to wait until you're in front of the notary and you hand over your ID. They just want to confirm your identity, and then you can sign in front of them. And then never write here at the bottom. This is where the notary is going to fill out that information, put their little seal or stamp, and fill out and give their own signature. Now, what do signers fill out? And also, let's talk about some of those common errors. So you can see right here, this person was maybe filling this out and they got to the address area and then they realized they wrote in the wrong address. So you're going to want people to cross out that entire line, initial, and then go on to the following line and include that information that's actually correct. You can also see they included their apartment number, which is great. You want to make sure all of the information, wherever they're registered to vote at, is included in this petition sheet. There are those ditto marks that I was talking about earlier. Sometimes folks, whenever they're signing, they'll see that the person above them, maybe they also wrote that they live in Omaha. They wrote the same zip code, the same city, same address. You're going to want to stop people and be like, hey, can you actually write out your full address or city or zip code? This is important because this information is cross-checked with wherever you are registered to vote, and we want to make sure that that information is accurately reflected here. Sometimes people may write things like acronyms for a city, or maybe even like a shorthand for their name. You want to make sure, again, that they write out their full name of whatever their legal name is that they're registered to vote. P.O. boxes, you have to make sure it's an address of wherever they're registered to vote, making sure that folks don't write outside of the lines. This is a good example of what, a full address would look like, including the street number and the apartment number, someone writing out their full name again, which is really great. Here's a very, minor error, but something that could be very impactful of, this person wrote 11816 25th. And what is that? Is that 25th Street, 25th Drive, 25th Avenue? We don't know. So again, you want to keep a close eye on folks as they're signing and correct that in the moment. Sometimes people, when they're signing, they'll skip entire columns, so you just want to watch folks as they sign, and if they miss something, then you can catch them right then and there and be like, hey, can you actually fix this, or can you write this out in full? And this last example right here, this person lives in Council Bluffs, Iowa, so they're not registered to vote in Nebraska, and they would not be eligible to sign this petition. As for what the petition sheet is going to be looking like now, there is a slightly updated format. So you see right here with the address, it has street number, name, city or village or zip code. Compared to the previous example, these were all in separate columns. But now this is all one column, so it's even more important than ever that you're watching folks as they sign and make sure they include each of these key pieces of information. As for some ways to collect signatures, whenever you're approaching people, just make sure that you're really friendly, clear, and concise. Explain the cause and why it matters, but also respect their decision to decline. But if they seem like they're on the fence, don't be afraid to engage in some conversation. And we say some conversation because this issue is very popular, so we don't need to be debating folks on it. If someone does want to debate, just move on from the conversation. But if someone has clarifying questions, then you're definitely free to answer them to the best of your ability. If someone does seem uncertain, you can certainly say that By signing this petition, that doesn't necessarily mean that you support or oppose paid sick leave, but you believe that Nebraskans should be able to vote and have their voices heard. So this is really vital because this is letting people know that just because we collect the right amount of signatures, that doesn't mean this is automatically going to be approved. This will still be up to the people in Nebraska to vote in November of 2024, and we want to make sure that this is an accurate reflection of how people feel. So just in case people are uncertain, you can let them know that, again, signing this doesn't mean you support or oppose it, but you believe that Nebraskans should be able to vote on it. As for a sample script, in terms of introducing yourself and asking voters to sign, you could begin with something like, "Hi, do you support paid sick leave for Nebraskans?" If they respond positively, introduce yourself by saying, "My name is blank, and I volunteer with blank. Can I get a quick signature to support working families?" And if the voter says no, you can politely end the conversation by just saying, "No worries, thanks, and have a good day." So some overall summaries of the signature collection tips and advice. If a signer makes a mistake, ask them to completely cross out the line, initial it, and start over on the next line. Say the date out loud whenever people are signing, so that way they have the accurate date that's reflected in there. So you can say 7/11/23, for example. Also, make sure you leverage your network. So friends and family, going to events, going door to door. Nebraskans are super well connected. And I think it's really important that people are able to capitalize off of those connections and encourage them to sign this petition. Make sure you stay on public property, so sidewalks, parks, post offices, DMVs. And if it's not on public property, just ask for permission from the owner and respect their decision. Say thank you after each person signs. So that's really important, just encouraging folks and thanking them for their time. And if they do express even more interest, you can invite them to get involved. Make sure you be aware of your audience and be prepared to meet them where they're at, to some extent. Just make sure of your surroundings and wherever you're at. And always, we encourage buddy systems if you're going door to door too. Signature collection on repeat days of the week. Consistency is always great. We have some people that like collecting every Sunday at farmers markets, but at the same time, some people maybe just feel more comfortable going to one-off events, and that's totally okay. You just kind of have to find what your balance is. And lastly, make sure you verbally walk through that petition before the individual departs. So you just want to look at each column and make sure everything is accurately reflected, and then you can have them, go on and head out. As for where to pick up these petitions, so we do have locations in Lincoln at the Nebraska Appleseed office, Nebraska AFL-CIO office as well, on these dates and times on the screen. Omaha also has some petitions that can be picked up at Heartland Worker Center, Women's Fund, and the Landslide office. And you can also request petitions be mailed to you via Google form on the website. So these can be mailed to anywhere throughout the state of Nebraska. And that information is also going to be listed on our website as well. And as for where you can actually collect these signatures, you can sign up on Mobilize. So if you're looking for somewhere to collect signatures, there are dozens of events listed here, and these are reflected and updated all the time. So based off of your location, there's information about maybe going to farmers markets or going to carnivals where you can even get them notarized. So definitely feel free to come and look back here often. There's always going to be events happening throughout the state of Nebraska. And lastly, thank you all so much for joining us and making a difference through petition signature collection. We are incredibly excited to be launching this campaign and really ensuring that folks across the state of Nebraska are able to receive paid sick leave and ensure more equitable healthcare across the state of Nebraska. Thank you all.